Yes, indeed. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of the RemiX Morning Show right here on Black Power Media. It's Wednesday, April 21st. I'm Jared Ball. We're back in the building, as are you, as you should be, right here with your Boom Bap Breakfast. And, of course, we got the crew with us. We got Kalanji Changa, the riot starter. We got Luke Mons in the building. Marcy Lee, good morning. What's up? And Kamal Franklin. Made it on time. Surprise, surprise. Good morning, everybody. What's going on?
Good morning. Morning.
Hey, so we got a lot to get into this morning. The world changed and then it didn't, right? So Kalanji, where are we at with everything, man? How you feeling this morning? What's going on?
Man, look here, man. And the more the words of Chairman Fred, it's terrible, but it's fine. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even allow a victory. They like, you know what I'm saying? All the good Negroes got happy. They's like, yeah, we won. It's all over, you know, so on and so forth. And while that was taking place, we know that another young sister was murdered by the police in Ohio. You know what I mean? So it's business as usual. You know what I mean? But the RemiX Morning Show, we're going to get it started and we're going to talk about that good shit that we need to talk about. You understand?
Yeah, we got a lot to get into. What's going on, Luke Mons? What's happening? Unmute
the Lukes.
You think they knew it?
Unmute the Lukes. Free the Lukes.
Free the Luke Mons.
Luke Mons.
Oh no, we had to mute ourselves because our dog is having a snack over there. But yeah, morning, y'all. Morning. That whiplash is a bitch, ain't it? Woo. Couldn't even go yay. Didn't even have enough time to go. That's right. Until like Kalanji said, you find out about the young sister who was murdered in Ohio, and the struggle continues.
And we're talking about Makia Bryant, if I'm saying her name correctly.
Yeah. I mean, this morning on the cops have already released body cam footage, and they're claiming, that she was trying to stab somebody. But I just don't know what all that hardware these cops have. Tasers and chemical spray and all this other kind of
training.
And training. And the first thing you do is, pump 5 loads in somebody in their chest. But anyway, yeah. Good morning.
Right.
Marcy, what's happening? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Like you said, I think that when we hear about these shootings, we take that as a celebration yesterday, but when I was listening to the president talk about it, I'm like, he's just giving us lip service. Like, I really feel like if they're going to do some changes, they really need to make changes that's going to make a difference. And then, like you said, we have this shooting, which is a signal to everyone that the changes that they're making are not good enough.
But Kamal, I'm saying he was found, but Chauvin was found guilty on all counts, right? It was a quick verdict. Everybody came back quickly. Victory. People were, rah rah. I saw Twitter was on fire. And then I think it was actually from you. I saw the message. Young Sister Bryant, we didn't even get 5 minutes down the road.
Actually, it was even before the verdict was read,
right?
That the actual shooting happened, and then it started hitting the airwaves. I mean, it does. I mean, as we've said, the amount of pressure that you have to even put on the system to make it react in a way that makes it look responsible. These folks were scared that rebellion was in the air if they had acquitted, and they knew that, and that's why even during the prosecution, they knew it before the trial started, and even during the prosecution. You've never had, a case where the chief of the police came out, other police officers testified, people clearly spelling out, this is not our policy. This is not how we're supposed to operate, particularly when there's cameras rolling, right? So these are the things that ensure that the conviction was going to take place because they marshaled their forces to make sure that there was going to be a conviction. Unlike 99% of every other case, where when there's not that public spotlight, it's basically the cops' words versus other folks' words. And so, again, we're going to get more into it tonight or today. But yeah, I think that's how I feel about it. It's if you have to go this far to get justice, then you already have to realize at the beginning that you live in an unjust system.
I really question if they're afraid of us or not. I don't really think they're afraid of us. I think that the situation is, they're still trying not to be embarrassed in front of the world. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that if they feared us, then they wouldn't murder over 1,000 of us a year. It's not like the murders stopped. I mean, it's like around the country, there were several different cases, but the most prominent was the 15-year-old or 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant. So I think that it's not necessarily fear. I think it's just trying to save face for now because they have the troops and they know we're unorganized. So it's really not rocking like that.
No, I'm going to push back a little bit. I think it's more than that. The international is based on what happens domestically. And so when they're shouting out, similar to the 60s and 70s, when they're shouting out that they represent human rights and liberty all over the world, and there's people protesting in the streets and dying and fighting back, that pulls back their cap and they can't do everything that they want to do. So I don't think it's necessarily they think we're going to be able to take over their system. But again, capital likes quiet. Capital likes to be able to move when everything is at rest and people are just shopping and taking things as normal. Capital does not like when folks are out there disrupting the normal sort of pursuit of commerce. And so I think they got the word early that in order to forestall people hitting the streets, massive protests, which again, I think would have happened if this guy was not convicted, that it was an early fix in to make sure that this thing was it wasn't a hard fix, don't get me wrong, that they were going to bring out everything they could on their prosecution side to ensure that a victory was going to happen in terms of a victory meaning a conviction.
Yeah, I think there is something to the international pressure, though, because remember, Chinese officials came right out and said that, the United States has no authority to accuse China of, genocide against Uyghur Muslims, which is, a BS story, when it has its own horrific record of human rights and genocide. And hey, look at what's going on in your own country right now. That was a huge embarrassment to the Biden administration at the very first summit with the Chinese government of his administration. So I think there is something to the international pressure aspect, but Kamal, you're also right. These capitalists they really want us to be quiet. This isn't justice. They just want us to shut up and go back to, watching the reality TV shows and sports and shopping. And, so they can continue exploiting us and making money. So there are layers. Who said there are layers to this? And it's not
there's levels to this.
Yeah, there's levels to this. This is a system that's been in place for 500 years. There's no easy fix that a protest, is gonna solve. And I think we have to be clear that the struggle is not gonna be, resolved with just people staying in the streets. We got to do some serious organizing and be really, really serious about it.
What do you all think about the sentencing phase, though? Do you think that's going to have any impact on people's response? Do you think any of it is what people waiting to see what the sentence is? Because I saw, if I read correctly, he could get Chauvin could get as little as 12 and a half years, but could get as much as 40, depending on the judge, of course. So because the jury, Chauvin's choice, doesn't have any say in the sentence. It's the judge that's doing all of that. So do you think that is going to have any effect on people's response?
I think it's possible. Yeah. I think it's possible that's the next phase that folks are waiting for. And I think there's two places where, again, the opposite fix may be in. You have a judge who showed himself to be sympathetic to the police officer, who's made several statements chiding the prosecution or talking about possible outside influence on the trial, which could make it an appeal issue. So I think you have this judge who may seek some sympathy in terms of giving the cop a little, not its maximum amount of time. I'm not sure about that at this particular stage, because I still think people are on edge. But two, I think the other thing that we have to look out for, which you always have to be vigilant for, is what happens in the appeal process. And so the appeals can drag on for years and years and years, as we all know in cases that we've seen. But again, if the judge is sort of putting in this information here, that possibly some possible appeal issues already, then he's sort of showing the defense which way to go forward and trying to get either a new trial or this thrown out. So,
well, I think that they're always checking the temperature of the people, like seeing where we're at. And I think that this is where we'll get to see if this is a symbolic gesture, meaning, with the convictions. I think that a lot of times when we look at these situations, they fold to the pressure of public opinion. So I think that they heard the cries, they heard everyone up in arms, like we need to see something this time. So I think the sentencing will demonstrate if this was just symbolic or if they're really trying to make the changes we're looking for.
I think in those 8 weeks, they're hoping that it dies off and it dies down. But right now, white supremacy is at an all-time high, and I think it's so arrogant that they're not going to. I mean, there's going to be so many more cases of brothers and sisters being murdered. It's inevitable. Like I said, over the last 10 years, there's been 10 to 15,000 folks murdered by police. You know what I mean? It's over 1,000 people yearly that are murdered by the police. So the fact that I mean, them thinking that, okay, it's going to die down and everything's going to be cool, is just not going to happen. But at the same time, with those 2 to 12 years, and you'll say, well, he got sentenced, but that's a damn shame, and we still mad, and we'll be tied up in a whole nother protest with a whole nother individual. It's crazy. I think like now at this particular stage in the game, we need to get some justice for blank shirts, because of the fact that it's going to keep on. That's the rallying cry for the last 10, 15 years. Justice for this person, justice for that person. You might as well leave a blank space and just write the name in, because of the fact that this shit is going to keep on going until we stomp these motherfuckers out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is true that there is this conversation that we're having about can we get justice in a system that continues to be a capitalist, imperialist, exploitative, anti-black, anti-working class and poor juggernaut. And I don't think that we can, but I also recognize that a lot of our people, I always have to remember that everybody doesn't know what I think I know, right? As much as I think I know, everybody doesn't know what I think I'm clear on. So, and I didn't always know what I know now. So I feel like sometimes we got to give our people who are not where we are the room, the space, and I know we don't have time, but at least the room and the space to get there, to understand, okay, this verdict, okay, fine, it's great, but what are you celebrating? Because we're never going to get justice in this system. This was what they agreed to do to keep us from tearing shit up. this time. This wasn't like them seeing, oh yeah, this was terrible and we have to give these people justice. No, this was just like, look, let's just calm the natives down and let's just let this dude know, look, you got to take the L for this. We'll make sure you're all right. But I think we need to give our people space to understand the conditions that we're really in and why this is really not justice. Feels good, but it's not the justice we're looking for.
Well, and no doubt, and that's why right here at the Remix Morning Show, that again, that boom bap breakfast, we not letting anybody rest, letting anybody calm down. That's that's why we come in the morning hitting hard with the riot starter and all of that kind of energy, because that's how we want to keep it. That's where we want. That's the level we want to sustain here at BPM, and to give room for that discussion in the space you're talking about, for people to get caught up, and for us to catch up to them in some circumstances as well. So anyway, but a lot more coming up here at the Remix Morning Show. We're just getting started, so make sure you're hitting the like button, make sure you're hitting subscribe, make sure you're joining, make sure you're retweeting and telling everybody to get up over here and get some of this good organic soul food for your media diet and get you started. We have again a lot more coming up. We got stories covering the globe all the way down to your community, weather, sports, so much more coming up, and right now with the ear doctor. So we're gonna call the doctor in and bring him on through, and then like I said, don't go anywhere. There's so much more going. Good morning, sir.
What up? How y'all doing today? It's another beautiful day. Let's get it.
So
right on.
All right.
It's always Sundays on the Remix.
Right.
All right on. We'll be back here. Much more coming up here in the Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? I am the ear doctor, and man, I got to tell you, I'm still coming down off my high from the first show, the launch of the show, and at the same time, 420. Why was I so high? It was a natural high of last night catching the versus battle. I gotta say, the versus battle was off the hook last night. You had Redman and Method Man, and they went at it, and I would say it was a classic one. If you ever seen the versus battle with what was it, Buju and Bounty Killer, it was like a real live concert. It was them two going back and forth. It was a real live celebration. It was great. Only thing I would say is the whole break they took, the DJ break, it wasn't the best look. They lost like 20,000 people for that quick second. But like I said, it was a dope thing. It was a dope versus. If y'all gotta check it out because it was real good. Other than that, I was just thinking in my mind, I was like, yo, so what if we had a versus with two R&B singers that I would love to see, but we can't see it right now. But I was thinking, what if we had, check this out, what if we had Sade versus Luther? I think that would be a pretty dope one right there. Luther versus Sade. I mean, with Luther, you got songs like A House Is Not a Home, If This World Was Mine, So Amazing, Since I Lost My Baby, If Only Had One Night, Never Too Much, Any Love, and Bad Boy. Oh man, that would be a dope versus. And then on the other side, if you got Sade coming, she got the joints like Lovers Rock. She got By Your Side, Cherish the Day, No Ordinary Love. Love is shorter than what is it? Love is shorter than Pride, The Sweetest Taboo, Nothing Can Come Between Us, Hang On to Your Love. Yo, I think that would be a real dope one. I don't know who y'all will pick, but put down in your comments who you think will have it if it was that type of versus. But this is just entertainment news for me right now. Let's get back to the remix and talk it up and chop it up with my peoples. We're going to do it like that. All right? Yeah.
All right, right on.
I'm sorry, I got to break in.
Oh boy,
it's
Please
always
handle
Luther.
that.
It's always Luther. It's always Luther. And even though
I was going to say,
I'm saying I don't even know. I don't know what the competition is. It's always Luther.
I think I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
I got one issue with the whole thing. First of all, it's not love is shorter than pride as long as love is stronger than pride. Okay. That's number one. Secondly, if Luther doing the verses anywhere, I don't want to see it because that means that my ass ain't here no more. And his ass ain't here no more. I like Luther, but however, I don't want to see Luther do shit if it ain't on.
Well, you know they could do the hologram thing now, right? Remember they did that with
man.
Prince?
Well, they did that with Tupac. They did that with Prince.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You know, deal with it.
Don't get the praise he deserves.
Yo, the red verse Meth last night was dope too. I just got to put that out there.
Yeah. And brought back memories.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to give y'all some entertainment news. I'm out of here.
All right, man. Keep it rocking, man.
Yo.
I can't front. I didn't even see the joint.
Your doctor comes and goes.
I caught a couple. It was good, man. It was, he brought on Wu-Tang. They brought on EPMD.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Kabal watched it.
Old school. I had to. It was the Wu-Tang, son. That's the second greatest band of all time.
Okay.
Notice I said
who was
second.
first?
I know you said second. Who's first?
PE.
Nah, man, it got to be the Roots, baby. The Roots.
What?
Rap beef.
Man, act like y'all know. Come on, man. Black Thought. Who got some Black Thought out there?
You can't be playing. You can't be parroting yourself from Bamboozled on a nightly basis and be the best group.
Whoa!
You can't. You can't do it. And no amount of freestyles on the Breakfast Club can save you from that.
Y'all haters, man. Just hating, man. You Jared, don't be that way, man. I expect that from some of the other people on this screen, but not you, brother.
It kills me that they do that. And then when you see, I don't even watch the show, but when you see the clips and then you see Fallon turn the camera and they standing over there grinning, it's just painful. I'm like, click, I gotta get that off the screen. That's terrible.
I don't watch that part, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man. You know,
the comment said Black Thought versus Mos Def. What you think?
It's gonna be Black Thought.
Black Thought.
I love Mos.
I love Mos.
Yeah.
I think it'd be closer than some of you were giving that credit for. Hold up, Yasin Baby killing it now. Hold up.
But he can't.
And most rhymes in Spanish. He be singing on the joint.
Let me find out. Jared's a Black Thought hater. I see how that's going.
I was gonna say I love Mos, but he can't hang with Black.
Yeah, nah, man. Nah.
I don't agree.
Most can't hang with me.
Come back to that. Oh wow. Yeah. All right. Wow.
Maybe come out of the job, man.
Yeah. Well, look at here. So what are some of the stories that we wanted to get into this morning? I wanted to just say one quick thing because that I did not put on the run sheet this morning. Just one quick thing. For all the conversation people want to keep having and sending me, sometimes directly and not so directly, just real quick. My one quick statement on the whole mixed issue is Dante Wright's mother was white.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to stop right there and we can move on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
So yeah.
Didn't mean to hold anybody up.
No, but that's important point.
I've been missing that
convo. You be freezing. No, just sometimes. Well, particularly sometimes because the overt political positions that I am associated with sometimes invites people to want to comment on what they think is their purview on my place in these politics and these discussions. Right. So I did, so they want to raise up, what's this mixed dude talk about Black power and all this other stuff. And I'm saying, well, so my response for right now is just that Dante's mother was white. So that's where I'm at. That's how I'm just going to simplify it for this morning. So I just wanted to put that out there this morning for all the people who have the temerity to speak so indirectly, and a few who can step up to the mic and get direct. That's what I'm going to say to them for now.
Duly noted. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know Dad was mixed. I thought he was Black like the rest of us. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, right.
Just
That's right. Yeah, mix what
I mix what I like. That's it.
I mix what I like. Figure it out.
It's wild what people hop on though. It's wild what people latch onto and make an issue in this struggle. It's crazy, but
it's a fear of the politics wrapped in something else. So like my short godfather likes to say, what would you say if I was tall?
Right.
Right.
It's like that scene from the movie. Remember that scene from that movie with when they had the Malcolm character talking to the Jim Brown character.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, of all the things they could highlight in the movie, they got into, I think it was one night in Miami, they got into this discussion around why are you light skinned cats, blah blah blah. It's like,
right,
this is Malcolm X. I'm like, what have you done? You need to talk to Malcolm. And who wrote that script? I don't understand. Like,
exactly.
What's going on in our history, the context of the times. That's the important kind of conversation that you want to have here. So.
Yeah, but I'm all good with that. I like I said, I'll stipulate that. I'm overcompensating. I'm whatever. But what does that have to do with the politics? That's the question. That's where I'm at. Like, you really mad at the politics and want to talk about why I've arrived at the politics. That's the issue. Anyway.
Yeah. I think the thing is, to a great extent, we all mixed. You know what I'm saying? We walk around with fucking European names. You know what I mean? We're speaking English. We pretty much submitted to our oppressor. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're speaking an oppressive dialect, an oppressive tongue. We walking around dressing like these motherfuckers. We acting like them. You know what I mean? So to the degree we all mix. Mobutu was pure African. You understand what I'm saying? He's blacker than the motherfucking blacker than midnight. Some of you motherfuckers out there are blacker than all of us put together. But at the end of the day, what is your politics? You understand what I'm saying? Right. We get so caught up in superficial shit. Let's deal with that after we get free. You know what I mean?
But just real quick, and I apologize. This was my fault all across the board. Shout out to May running things. Let's do this properly because I want us to get to the news. But let's hold up for the Remix Morning Show real quick before we get to the news. Let's set this up. We'll be right back. Let's get to the news. Check this out.
All right.
There it is. All right. Now let's get to the news. I just had it. This is all my fault on the production tip. But anyway, because I didn't mean for us to get dragged into all of that. I didn't want to hold us up because that wasn't on the run sheet. I just wanted to make that quick comment.
Yeah, run sheet.
Okay, but I know that Luke Mons wanted to take us to Russia. I got a couple things still straight you all out on the football joint, and then there's some other issues in the news that deserve some attention. Overthrows in Chad and all kinds of stuff going on. I
want to loop back. I want to loop back to the last topic because when I think about the younger people in our society, the anger and the lack of guidance, I think, is the biggest part because they have voices and they have all of these feelings inside. And so I think what they're trying to do is tighten the ranks, meaning they're trying to expel out those that they think will betray them. Those that they think won't hold the same values as far as the Black plight. So I think they look at people's skin, of course, and say, you're mixed. You didn't go through the same thing that I went through. So I think it's just a big miscommunication from a larger sect. Well, not even a larger, maybe a smaller sect of Black people who are just trying to figure it out. They're just trying to figure it out. They're misguided.
Yeah, I don't think it's the youth. I think it's just narrow nationalists altogether. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got folks like Marilyn Buck, you know what I mean, who was a political prisoner who chose who they were saying was a member of the Black Liberation Army. You know what I mean? Who decided that, she could have got off scot-free, but she wouldn't give up on Sekou and Matulu and some of these other folks. You know what I mean? She lived to 75. She had cancer. And they ended up letting her out like 5 days before she perished, before she transition. You have folks like Bob Boyle, who we just saw the other day, who's a white man who decided to go to law school after meeting Dhoruba Ben Wahad around behind the prison walls. You know what I'm saying? And he's been fighting to free, and he's fought to free at least 3-4 of our political prisoners. You know what I mean? So we get caught up in all this other bullshit. At the end of the day, take your narrow nationalist ass and show us what your track record looks like. You know what I'm saying? And by no means am I defending anyone. I'm pro-black to the hilt, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whoever you sleep with, however you get down, that's your own personal bullshit. Do what you do. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I'm trying to get free. Now, if you sleep with white women or fucking brown dogs, hey, knock yourself out the box. That's what you do. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what side of the
you gotta get brown dogs, man.
Whiskey is now offended.
I would think so. I was like,
my bad.
It's a little much for the morning. It's a little much for the morning. Save that for Renegade Coach.
Hey, I'm the riot starter. I'm not. I'm like the Incredible Hulk. I ain't on none of y'all's side. I'm just here to do the job. I ain't looking for no new friends. You know what I'm saying?
What is he?
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But with Marcy's comment, I think all of it is like it's when it's time and space, right? Who you're talking to. Obviously, if you talk to some young folks, there's going to be a different vantage point. I think Jared's right in the sense that the conversation is a conversation. It can be a political conversation at times. But I also think, as Kalonji said, some people are using it as a one-up on you, right? They try to. It's not like they do anything. They don't do any work. Like they talk game. They may do and all that kind of stuff, but they don't do any work. And so the only thing they can one up with you on is something along those lines, because they don't want to sit down and do the study, the work, to do anything for the community. And so they want to do something which is a lazy comeback, instead of talking about what needs to happen and the work that needs to happen.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And what it does is it deflects attention from issues that we really should all be paying attention to, which aren't always, within the confines of these borders. Like, people always think about, things that are going on in places like Russia and the Ukraine. Oh, what's that got to do with Africans? Look, the United States is an empire. Imperialism affects all of us. And the history of the U.S. involvement and the provocation of Russia is extremely important, especially since, Baba, you said yesterday something that I thought was really interesting, that the only reason we are not living in a nuclear wasteland is because of the restraint of Russia in regard to the U.S. involvement with Russia. And just because Biden is...
Did y'all see that segue?
Did you see it? Did you see it?
I had to point it out. I just got to shout out the segue. Big ups to the DJs on the fader.
How professional was that? See? No. But the provocation of the U.S. is still going on toward Russia. And, there's an interesting narrative going on behind it now where the Biden administration is claiming that if Alexei Navalny dies, then Putin will he'll suffer some consequences. Well, let's think about really quickly who Alexei Navalny is and how completely fucked up it is that the United States is supporting this guy. Navalny is a politician in Russia, but he's also a right-wing nationalist. He's a white supremacist. This man has compared Muslims to cockroaches. He opposes immigration into European nations from Muslim majority countries. And he has also never polled higher than 3% in any election that he has run in. He's not popular in Russia at all. He came to prominence because he branded himself as this person who's exposing Putin's corruption. But Navalny himself was convicted of fraud in Russia against, stealing a bunch of money from a big French cosmetics company. So that's why he's in jail, because he violated his own damn parole. So this is the guy that the United States government is propping up as the legitimate opposition leader to Putin. Now, whether Putin's government poisoned Navalny or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I kind of feel like if the Russian government can't do better than botching a poisoning of somebody, I just kind of question their ability to, be the huge threat, to national security that they claim to be, if they can't, knock off one dude. So that's a suspect narrative in itself. So when we're talking about the United States government punishing Putin, if something happens to right-wing nationalist racist Alexei Navalny, who really has no legitimacy in Russia and is not a threat to the Russian government, we have to understand who this guy is and why the United States would align with that guy in opposition to Putin. It makes no sense. So then you have to start questioning, what the heck is the United States doing? But then it ties into what's going on in Ukraine and the buildup of Russian troops in Ukraine, or the alleged buildup.
No, it's built up.
Okay.
I mean, everybody, all the sources say that 120,000 Russian troops are on the border of the Ukraine. But I want to go back to, you said it doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that the United States would back Navalny because they're continuing trying to destabilize Putin's. They can't just go in there and remove Putin, much as they would like to do. But I mean, it's just to further destabilize Russian politics even further. I want to get back because I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to make this point clear. And you had made this point earlier, is the fact that why does this matter to us? Well, it matters to us because, again, like you said, and we did have this conversation yesterday, that one of the reasons why we are not living in a nuclear wasteland right now is because of the restraint of the Russians. Let's look at some of the things that the United States and NATO has done since the end of the Cold War, just briefly. Number one, the former Warsaw Pact, which was the opposing force of the NATO alliance, right? All the Warsaw Pact countries or former Warsaw Pact countries are now part of NATO. So what does that mean? That means NATO is on Russia's border, right? Historically, Russia has always been about security. When you go back to the Russian pact with Hitler, with the division of Poland, that was Stalin made that pact with the Nazis because he was trying to have security for the Russian border. So he made this unholy alliance. He knew that Hitler, because he read Mein Kampf, so he knew what Hitler actually really thought about communism and Bolshevik, the Bolshevik Revolution. So Stalin already knew that eventually he's going to have to fight Hitler. But in the meantime, let's take the advantage of giving ourselves time to do what we need to do, which means you need space. So he made that pact with. So the Russian mentality of security when it comes to the West is still there, even with the Russian army. So there is 120,000 troops. The Russians, in response to NATO aggression, has developed a new generation of hypersonic nuclear weapons. Hypersonic nuclear weapons means that they can't be stopped. The Russians have just put out of service the Satan II missile, which the Satan II missile was so powerful it could destroy an entire state. Let's look at an entire state. The Russians just took that out of active service, but they still got it if they have to go back to it. So I think that Ukraine has always been a political football for the Russians. Napoleon tried to take over the Ukraine. Russians kicked him out. The Nazis understood that Ukraine was an important strategic location. It's called the breadbasket of Russia. So the Russians are not going to let you have that. And so the NATO alliance has made a deal since the fall of the Soviet Union. They've been trying to woo Ukraine into NATO. Now, this is the sticky part, is that NATO has a partnership there. Ukraine is not a member, and that's a good thing, because if Ukraine was a member of NATO, then according to the NATO charter, if Russia does attack Ukraine, then the NATO charter demands that all NATO nations have to come and defend Ukraine. So there was a compromise there in order to have what they call a partnership or cooperation with Ukraine, which means like the United States right now is considering sending weapons to Ukraine in order to deal with this Russian buildup. But there'll be no NATO troops. It can't be no NATO troops because that's World War III. If NATO troops was to go into Ukraine. So what they're doing is saying, well, okay, we'll send weapons there because that's under our mutual cooperation. So NATO is saying, well, Ukraine, you got to have democratic elections, you got to have this, you got to have that. So they put all these stipulations on Ukraine to become NATO members, but the intention is not for Ukraine to become a NATO member because they know Russia would not tolerate that. So, so they play this game, this political game, but they're not going to allow Ukraine, Russia's not going to allow Ukraine to become a NATO member. Russia will go to war before that. So this is one of the things that I think is important to us to see, that these games that the United States is playing, not only with Ukraine, but also with China. So you have two nuclear powers who have weapons that's capable of hitting us. And here in the United States, whether it's in the China Sea, whether it's behind Taiwan, the United States has two major issues with nuclear superpower countries that can put us in nuclear war tomorrow. One is if China decides to invade Taiwan, which they're going to do one day. This is something that Mao wanted. This is something that Mao demanded of the society. And then we have the Ukraine. So you got Ukraine, you got Taiwan. Both of those things could trigger nuclear war within an instant.
But Baba Lukman, real quick, because in a less professional and expert segue, I want to try to show you why we don't need to worry about that.
Okay, cool.
Because your concern about the coming nuclear war and all the chicanery of the U.S. Government, we don't have to worry about that because we got the good brother Lloyd Austin as our defense secretary.
Problem solved.
And
at ease now.
Yeah, so I want you to relax because I know we've been getting everybody in the Remix audience a little shaken up this morning. Ryan started talking trash about dogs and all this other stuff. You over here scaring people with nuclear war. So I just want everybody to relax. Maybe switch from coffee to tea.
The brother's got it.
Because the brother's got it. And not only does he have it, but he's making sure that his former colleagues on Raytheon, one of the biggest defense contractors, is getting all the money they need to build all the weaponry they need to stop this coming nuclear war. And yeah, I said it. They're building more weaponry to stop nuclear war because that's the logic we're asked to accept.
Right.
So that was just one little thing. I just wanted everybody to chill a little bit.
I did not,
dear brother.
Of everybody think they're going to turn to action.
Stop scaring everybody. You know what I'm saying?
No nuclear war because Lloyd Austin is he's fixed it.
And then
the magical Negro thing. I mean, right?
He's the new magical Negro. There you go.
The new magical Negro. And
right.
And also we don't have to we don't have to worry about all this nuclear war and focus on Russia and Ukraine because the good Uncle Joe with his good brother Lloyd are ramping up all this weaponry in part because they can't stop messing with Afghanistan.
Right.
So if you don't have to, one reason we don't have to worry so much about Russia and Ukraine is because they're not going to leave Afghanistan alone anytime soon either.
No,
I just wanted to show folks real quick and share just a couple of things from, this is an article from the other day from Covert Action Magazine, but just a couple of things that the highlights got erased. Okay. But anyway, a couple of things that I wanted to just show people real quick. One is that there, for all the claims of a troop withdrawal, there will always be, as it says here, a shadowy combination of clandestine special operations forces, Pentagon contractors, and covert intelligence operatives. All right. They're not going anywhere. There is, as they're describing here, a mercenaries are us situation where there are more than 18,000 contractors have remained in Afghanistan when official troop totals have already been reduced to 2,500. So you can reduce more troops because there's 18,000 contractors, most of whom are former service personnel coming out of the DOD in some shape or form, who are collecting in one instance through DynCorp International of Falls Church, Virginia, $7 billion in government contracts. So again, rephrased, our tax dollars appropriated without our, without much of our say, are being funneled through the Pentagon by the billions to private corporations who bring these mercenaries along with them to do all the things that the official military isn't going to be doing or being paid to do anymore. It has a long tradition in and out of Afghanistan, going back to the 1950s, of secret wars funded and led by the CIA. Behind the scenes, as we just heard from the Lukmans, they're talking about the we're not sending troops thing, but we're sending weaponry. That's like a slight change from the old version of we're not sending troops, we're sending advisors, as was said for so many years in other parts of the world. And then the last part I just wanted to bring up very quickly from here is, one of the real reasons why all of this is going on, of course, is imperialism and colonial control, but specifically that in 2007, the United States Geological Service discovered $1 trillion in mineral deposits in Afghanistan, including huge veins of iron, copper, cobalt, and gold, and critical industrial metals like lithium, which is used to manufacture of batteries for laptops and Blackberries, etc. And an internal Pentagon memo stated that Afghanistan would become the Saudi Arabia of lithium. And for me, that is the phrase of that piece. And for our purposes, as I conclude that part this morning, that because what does it mean for Afghanistan to become the Saudi Arabia of lithium? If you look at what has been done in terms of Saudi Arabia's politics in relationship to United States support and all of that, turning it, protecting, the worst forms of dictatorial leadership and, all kinds of abuse while claiming to be a democracy and making all these big arms trades deals and all this kind of stuff. So that's what they want to turn Afghanistan into. And that's why they can't allow any real news to be discussed about any policy changes. And in fact, as others have pointed out, one of the reasons why Trump found himself in trouble before he left office is because he was actually trying to withdraw the troops. And the military-industrial complex was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah,
That's not what we ran this ridiculous presidency for you to take our troops out. You're supposed to be starting wars, son. Right? We don't end wars over here. So anyway, I just, because I know people were talking about Biden is going to be the pushable, the left pushable.
I mean, it comes back to what the Lukman, I think. You fading a little bit, Jared. But I think it comes back to this idea of encircling Russia, right? And again, any nation state that doesn't operate within the Western interests, and Russia has always been treated like the ugly cousin of Western capitalism, right? It had its role, but when it broke through and established sort of a communist relationship and countered the capital interest of the West, it became forever an enemy of the West and one that had to be controlled. And, we had these velvet revolutions a few years ago, which were inspired and enacted by Western interests to, again, bring those countries closer to the United States position. And as you stated, that's been NATO's goal. NATO's goal is get right up to the border of Russia and to encircle it basically the same way it's encircling Iran or the same way it's embargoed Cuba, right? The same thing that's happening in Venezuela. The problem for them with Russia is that Russia can actually fight back, like you said. And Russia doesn't have to take it the way these other countries have to take it because they have the population, the technology to a degree to withstand that kind of thing and to physically fight back, right?
Right. And, one of the things that, and I'm glad Jared brought up about Afghanistan and the phrasing about being the new Saudi Arabia, because if you look at the way that the United States attention is turning away from Saudi Arabia, the real Saudi Arabia, it's turning as oil is starting to fall out of favor. The United States is oil independent now. They export oil. So the United States' attention on the Middle East is not like it used to be. And so they're really losing interest in the Middle East. They're going to always be there to ensure that Israel has the military dominance there, but and to contain Iran. But attentions are elsewhere when you start talking about this $1 trillion find in Afghanistan. The fact that the United States, and I agree. I mean, right prior to that find, Afghanistan has one of the largest natural gas reserves. So they were building a pipeline there, even under the Karzai administration. And so this is another reason why I was stating that Russia said that the 120,000 troops are a response to NATO. That was their excuse. It had nothing to do with Ukraine. At least that's what they're saying officially. That it's a response to NATO aggression. So and to think that Russia was once the largest supplier of natural gas to Western Europe. So that has ended. So that has significantly impacted Russia's ability for revenue. But yeah, but when we talk about the sanctions, Jackie and I always talk about how the United States is always talking about sanctioning everybody else. Nobody sanctions the United States, but that's changing now. I think the Russian government sanctioned some government officials over here. China sanctioned some U.S. officials and things. So you're starting to see now some of these global these changes happening where hey, look, you sanction me, I sanction you, and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
hey, just real quick before we call back the doctor, I just wanted to real quick on this global piece and this imperial piece, and we haven't had a good fuck France moment yet this morning. But I just wanted to, because President Debbie in Chad was killed, assassinated, or whatever, killed in combat yesterday, or overnight, or over the last 36 or so hours in struggles with rebels that are coming from Libya, and I just wanted to note the French colonial history that divided up that nation. Chad in particular, never mind the rest of the continent, that has these long colonial ties that have put these military leaderships in positions of power. Debbie had long been known to be a friend of France and the United States. And even as he pointed out before he was killed, the so-called rebels coming from Libya are coming from a country collapsed by the United States and France. So even all these contradictions are all over, even though we might not support Debbie, we recognize that the people coming in to fight him are largely coming out of a collapsed society, whose own interests I'm not at least clear on. I'm not the most expert on this region, but I just wanted to note that for all the discussion of yet another military leader in Africa killed in another African internal conflict, that this has all of the United States, France, and Western powers' hands all over it. And the people of Chad are still themselves, much like the rest of the African continent and much like the rest of us throughout the diaspora, are suffering as a result. So, so again, fuck France, you know what I'm saying? And all of that, and all of this imperial nonsense. Anyway, that keeps messing us up and holding us, in this state of constant conflict. Yes, please, Marcy.
Yeah,
go
I have
ahead.
a question for the Lukmans in regards to Russia. You talked about this weapon, and I think I heard you said that it's unstoppable. So I'm wondering to you, what is the solution? Is it more technology to kind of keep an eye on what's going on? How do you prevent this catastrophe from taking place?
Well, I think what it is that we're over the threshold of that. I mean, hypersonic weapons. The United States, at least that's what they claim, that they don't have the technology to stop hypersonic weapons. A hypersonic weapon, for those who want to put it in layman's terms, is that you could fire a hypersonic ballistic missile from Moscow. It'll hit Washington D.C. in like 5 minutes, and it's entering the atmosphere at hypersonic speed. Physics. There's no way to stop something coming in the atmosphere that quickly. So I think that our politics have to change when it comes to dealing with societies. China's developing hypersonic weapons. That seems to be the new trend now. So I think that this country's politics. We no longer can just this country. I gotta stop saying we. This country can no longer just travel to have this Teddy Roosevelt philosophy of imperialism. You just can't run around the world with a big stick anymore. Other people got big sticks now, you know.
So is that
yeah.
So is that why the U.S. is backing the opposer to Putin? From your perspective, is that why they're backing?
Well, I don't think it's so much they're backing him because of the nuclear threat. I think it's just that Putin's been in office for like over 30 years or more. Mm-hmm. I think that the United States is just backing him just to continue to destabilize Russian politics. That's all. They know that this guy has a large following inside and outside of Russia. And so the United States is just using that as a thorn in Putin's side, really. They don't care.
They don't hope is to have somebody in there who's going to be more compliant.
Exactly. To give the U.S. access to all of those resources.
But Putin will poison everybody before he lets that happen.
Wow.
I mean, he will poison everybody for that.
I think the other big change that, whether it's on the horizon or not, but something that really will shift the game international relations is when the dollar is no longer the standard of international trade. And so the sanctions will have less of an impact on other countries when, China and Russia, I think for a while, Brazil and India, I think some of that coalition has faded now, but China and Russia have been working on alternative ways to conduct trade outside of the dollar. And so when countries begin to really, again, whether it's countries we agree with or not, but when they agree to sort of not use the Western international apparatus and structures for conducting trade, including trying to get off the dollar, that's, I think, when you'll see even a larger, you either see the United States act as an attack dog even more because it sees its power waning, but you'll also see countries more so having opportunities to break out of the Western orbit because the alternative will be that much stronger in terms of the destabilization of local economies or national economies vis-a-vis the ability of Western interests to sanction them, to embargo them, and to stop them from trading.
Right on. Hey, listen, everybody. We're here with the Remix Morning Show at Black Power Media as we get ready to call back our ear doctor, call the doctor back up on on here. Good morning again to you, sir. Make sure everybody out there watching, we're well over 130 folks on with us live, and we appreciate you. Good morning, getting your boom bat breakfast. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button. Consider joining the Black Power Media channel and supporting all that is coming and all the expansion. And make sure you stick around coming up in the next hour where we have much more coming up on the remix, including Dr. Iyeli Ichile and Brother Mel Reeves coming through to talk a little bit more about the verdict. So we got a lot more coming up here in the second hour of the Remix Morning Show. So, Ear Doctor, what's coming up, my man?
Hey, we got the weather. So let's get into the weather, let people know what it is and where it's colder than a white man at. How about that?
Right on, right on.
Word. All right. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the Ear Doctor, and I'm giving you your weather once again. We're not just going to talk about one place. We're going to tell you about places all around the world, but we're going to start off with Chicago. Big up to the Chi. Big up to everybody up there doing their thing. It's going to be the high of 42. It's always cold and windy in Chicago. It's going to be a high of 42, and it's going to be rainy. Let's take it down to MIA. Big up to Dade County, all the spots down there, all my Baricuas and everything. Yo, it's going to be 84 high. It's going to be rainy there too. So, after that, let's go over to Havana, Cuba. Cuba is going to be 87 degrees in Havana, Cuba. And let's go to the islands. Let's go to Bridgetown, Barbados. It's going to be like 75 degrees there. And now let's go to where it is colder than the white man. And where would that be? That would be Vilnius, Lithuania. What is it? Vilnius, I cannot say this word, but I'm going to say it one more time. Lithuania. Boy, it's hard to say that word for me. I don't know what it is. But Vilnius, Lithuania, it's about 3 black people there, and it's going to be 59 degrees. So to all my black brothers and sisters out there, those 3 out there, Big up to you. I know it's going to be colder than the white man out there, but that right there is the weather. So let's get back to the remix show. All right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Remix morning show right here, Black Power Media. Hey, straight up, real time. The police have created a situation where we can't have one of our co-hosts on because they down there vamping, chasing folks in the community, crashing into power lines and taking out one of our hosts in the process. So one way or another,
I think it was a brown dog that chewed out the power lines after he heard it.
The dog union was like, we got to put a stop to this.
Drive into a power line, do whatever we got to do to take it down. So hey, but that's how the struggle continues. So listen, I know that we wanted to come back and talk a little bit more about the verdict and the continuing police violence that like we already said, didn't even take a break even before the verdict. So where are we with this latest in police terrorism? What do you all think, and where do we think that even as a remix morning show, where should we be advocating audiences to go for solutions? What do we think about all this?
Well, I know one source we shouldn't be going to is Nancy Pelosi.
Ooh,
I mean, her
the squad's gonna get mad at you.
Hey, she should have put more thought into what she was saying to the community, because I feel like what a lot of people were saying, which I agree, is that she was tone deaf and thanking him for sacrificing his life for justice. I think that was very insensitive. So, yeah, definitely not Nancy.
Well, one person I think we can go to is Dr. Ichile, who's joining us this morning in advance of her upcoming segment. So we appreciate that. Good morning, Dr. Ichile. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be on here with you.
We know folks at BPM are familiar with your work, and will continue to learn more about your great work heading up the African American Studies Institute at Prince George's Community College, right down the street here in Maryland. Mm-hmm. Maryland in the building. Yes, indeed. Maryland.
Thank you.
Anyway, but I didn't mean to cut everybody off. We just wanted to bring Dr. Chile up here. Where are we as the rest of us on this issue of police terrorism and solutions?
I think we got to start creating alternative institutions, alternative policing institutions that act as security forces, that act as a buffer in our community between the police and our community. I think that's one thing that we have to start doing. Obviously, we have to look at the methods and means and who is in control of this narrative around what policing looks like, even from the so-called nationalist, the movement side, because I think what we have here is folks who are telling us that the ideas of defunding the police and the policy positions are going to work, where they're scared to even implement them in the places where there are liberal Democrats in control. I pointed this out on another show, by any means necessary, the other day, is that you have some of the most liberal Black mayors in places like Jackson and Newark, who are supported by so-called movement infrastructure like Movement for Black Lives and Black Lives Matter. But yet, in these places where it should be the easiest to go after defunding the police as a strategy, those places have had increases in their police budget over that same time period where these liberal mayors and these liberal Black mayors have gone. So if we can't do it there, then it tells us something's going on with the strategy and or someone's running a game on us. So we have to really think about what our strategy is going to be, how we need to come full force at these folks, as opposed to suggesting that somehow that these liberal folks get off the hook, who folks are funding and propping up and giving positions to, and actually in some cases help elected. So we have to rethink what that looks like in terms of work on the ground.
Yeah, and I think we also have to stop disconnecting changing policing from everything else that is an issue in our communities. Because look, I think this is another one of those issues where we need to give people the space to catch up to the reality of what we're facing. The reason policing is the way it is in our communities is because it's by design. And it was implemented that way as a strategy to deal with this surplus population after, enslavement was over with. And they're like, what are we going to do with all these Negroes now that we can't make them work for free? So when our ancestors started to build our own self sufficient communities, the people who were able to profit off of our free labor weren't able to do that anymore. So they destroyed everything that we created, and it for capitalism, for white supremacy, and also in order to continue to exploit and use us as a way for them to make money without slavery. So they had to find a way to control the population. So they took jobs away. They made it difficult for us to make a living. They made education unequal and kept it that way. Every aspect of society that they propped up and claimed, well, this is how you make it in America: get a good education, work hard, have a family, get married, and do all these things. They made it difficult for us to do that. And they did that knowing that they would create situations where we would continually live in poverty. And we know that poverty breeds desperation. We know that desperation breeds hopelessness. People have to make a living. So look, you're gonna put food on your table and keep a roof over your head any way you can. The Italians did it. The Jewish mob did it. The Irish mob did it. This is not something that this country doesn't understand, that poverty is a breeding ground for crime, because people gonna eat, and it doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. But unlike those other groups of people, this society didn't craft a plan to continue to police those people and keep them on the margins of society. They gave those folks a way to assimilate into society and become successful, not us. So we have to address these issues of lack of employment, of substandard housing, of poor education, all of the societal issues that have been erected that these people use as an excuse to over police our communities and say, well, y'all need this extra brutal policing because look at how y'all act. It's not how we act.
But sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Marcy, go ahead.
And that's why I think that it's important for every Black person out there who's listening, which I'm sure our viewers are on the same page, is for us to work as a collective. Because when we look at Joe Biden and all these politicians, they have shown and proven that that's not their interest. So it always falls back on us, our community, to take care of our own, to have solutions for the unemployment, housing, all of those things, for us to come together as a collective.
Yeah.
Lee, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the only thing I would add to this really brilliant conversation is that just a gentle reminder that we really need to think about and talk about the police as an army. Like, the police are militarized and more rapidly militarizing every day. And I think we're having these conversations as though the police are some sort of entity that I think there's almost some psychological thing that we're still playing around with, that the police are here to serve and protect. Somewhere, somehow, some way, some of them are here to serve and protect, as opposed to saying this is an army that is funded and directed and targeted at our communities. And so we're in a war. And if we don't speak about it in those terms, we're not going to come up with appropriate solutions. Like, we really have to think about, we're up against an army, a well-funded, armed to the teeth military force, and it always has been. So it is the slave patrols, but the police are also connected to the militias of the 18th and 19th century. So we really have to think about that. We have to think about federal budgets that go toward not just the military industrial complex, but that the police are an extension of that. Like, I think that, like, framing it that way when we talk about it helps us to get to the level of intensity that I think we need to use to respond.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Eli, this myth of the serve and protect thing that you talk about, I think is deep, because if I'm not mistaken, and if I saw correctly in the story of Ma'Khia Bryant's killing the other day, it started with someone calling the police, someone in the community calling the police to the scene again. And yet here again is the outcome of that call. So Kamau, when I hear you say, for instance, when I see, Kalanji is of course doing his thing in the chat, he cannot be suppressed in his entirety. But when I see what he's saying in the chat about decentralization and divestment, disband, and community control, and you're talking about alternative methods of community policing and security, it seems to me that if we understand the nature of the police and what they're here to, in fact, protect, they're not going to sit idly by and watch a community self-defend, organize its protective, its peacekeeping units, its security, whatever, because that would destabilize what in effect is a necessary part of this society, both racially and financially, a destabilized Black community that, So I'm just curious, Kamau, anybody, I don't know. Where does that mean that we would be headed then? What is, that sounds, I don't know. I feel like I'm sounding ominous here all of a sudden.
Well, yeah, let me say that there are some examples, for, right where we live at, on our street, there's, our neighborhood have taken the initiative of using social media as sort of like a policing, using it as a way of policing ourselves. And so just on our little block here, what we had a Facebook page, and we communicate with everybody. So it's sort of like a virtual community watch. So one of the things that Jackie and I have done on our street is what we call reclaim your space. So we did the thing with the gardening. We came out, and it was something that was really amazing, y'all, is that when we first started building these these garden beds in front of our house, people were coming out looking at us, man, like we were just landing from Mars. But then just this past weekend, when we were putting the second bed in, folks were coming out of their houses and they started dealing with their own garden. And then they was coming by, people who would normally not talk to us was coming by saying, man, I like that. Neighbors who wouldn't even say good morning to us. So it was like little steps like that where we start sowing the seeds of community. And then on the Facebook page that we have for our neighborhood, if somebody sees something out of place, they put it on the page and then inform all of us. And so what happened is that the element that we don't want around us, or the element that can cause problems, they stay away from us because people are reclaiming their space. And we know that one of the things that happen is that nature abhors a vacuum. So when you're not reclaiming your space, someone else is. And so this is what we found to be very effective, at least on in the beginning levels of just reclaiming our spaces.
Yeah,
right on.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I hope we can replicate that. And if you guys have some sort of little guide or something, you just laid it out. But I would love to see that happen more and more.
I'll add, so what? That's what you expect from the state, not so what on what you guys are doing. So what on Jared's thing? The state will respond, but you can't call yourself a radical, an organizer, revolutionary, any of these terms. If you don't have an expectation that the state is going to respond, then your work is not really doing anything, to be honest with you. Because we are, as I think as some folks have said in a comment, and as the doctor pointed out, there is a war going on. The other side knows it. The question is, do we know?
Right.
And do we then employ the appropriate tactics and strategies and guidance in order to protect ourselves as much as possible in terms of fighting this war, right? And part of that is mass organizing. Part of that is creating alternative structures. Part of that is the very work that they're doing in their community, the work that we try to do in our community with the safety patrol, the cop watch, the mutual aid, the stabilization funding to help keep people in their homes. How do you begin to organize and politicize the very community that you need to protect you from those forces, right?
Yeah.
It is the masses that will protect us from the forces. It's not just us trying to be showy with either guns or standing tall with red, black, and green signs or whatever like that. It's only when we organize with the masses of our people will we have some semblance of protection. Otherwise, what's going to happen is what's continually happened, where we get just picked off, right? Whether you're politicized or not, right? Just because you're in your house and they feel like picking you off, they'll pick you off, right? As Kalaji mentioned, the 1,000 per year, folks are just getting picked off. And if you're politicized and you're organized, but you're not organized with a larger community, and again, you can just get picked off, right? If you're not challenging the liberal establishment, then you'll get brought off, right? And that's the other part of our movement that's happening. People get brought off. So we have real challenges ahead of us. The question becomes whether or not we are mentally prepared and ready to work to challenge the onslaught of the state, which should be expected because it's happening now, even as folks don't do what we should be doing anyway.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I mean, part of the other side of that struggle is, you know, as we're kind of organizing, trying to figure out a way to organize our neighborhood, you know, we're also surrounded by, you know, a bunch of bourgeois middle class Black folks who kind of love the cops. You know, we got 2 cops who live in the neighborhood who do not like us, but that's fine, you know. But so then that's the other struggle. Like, how do you organize people who you know don't understand the system, and they do see poor Black folks who live a block away from us as all, you know, the enemy, and you know, we're kind of struggling with how we deal with that. So that is another kind of part of this issue with Black people in policing that is always difficult. You know, you don't want to just write off a whole group of folks, but look, the class struggle has to be brutal. And at some point we're going to have this conversation with our neighbors that no, we're not going to get a Ring camera that is provided to us by the police so we can spy on folks.
Right.
And no, we're not going to call the cops every time some suspicious looking poor person comes walking through the neighborhood. So you know, that's kind of the tension that we also experience.
The one thing that I want to say is that that's what I was referring to earlier when I was talking about collectivism versus individualism. I feel like there's a lot of people in our community that don't see it as an issue because it's not impacting them on a personal level, especially when I look back at the election, the previous presidential election. This was the most divisiveness that I've seen in the Black community in a very, very long time. And that's my issue. I feel like that we all need to be a huge collective. I know we can't get everyone, but I feel like that mindset of getting everybody on the same page would help us in our power to address this problem of policing.
Well, you know, one of the things I think stands in the way of that type of unity and that type of mass organizing is really the fact that even those of us with a certain type of political analysis don't speak in terms of class when we're organizing in communities. We are holding political education classes. We're having know your rights workshops and all these other things, but we're not saying let's address poverty in our neighborhood, poverty on our block, poverty in our community. Let's talk about the differences between the middle class Black folks around here and the poor Black folks around here. Let's have a cross-class conversation, if that's real. Let's actually use the language until it becomes a thing and the analysis can follow. But if we're afraid to even identify class differences, I think we're even afraid to speak to class differences in our community directly with the people and say, okay, we don't all have the same educational access, the same educational attainment or background. We don't all have we're not all living at the same level of income. Or, you know what, if we really sit and talk, my student loan debt puts me about at the same level.
For real, right?
I'm worse off.
We need to really talk in those terms so that it becomes a way of organizing across those boundaries as opposed to just pretending they don't exist.
Hey, look, as soon as they start calling these student debts for real, I'm gonna have to move down to one of the community movement builders' houses and try to get a spot in there, because this is about to be a wrap for real. But listen, this is the Remix Morning Show right here on Black Power Media. As some in the chat have noticed, we are well over 150 people watching live. Please make sure you have hit the like button, that you have shared this with your circle, because whatever else is going on, there is no other morning show happening like this. There is no other collective of Black power rights and Africana thought being put together in this way to bring you some news and to get your day started. So let's help keep it going and build and grow. So do all those little things you can help. And if you can become a member, hit the join button and help us to expand in that way as well. Hit the Patreon link, all of that stuff, whatever is easiest for you, comfortable for you, we are happy to accommodate. Dr. Ichile has a lot more coming up here in just a minute after we hear from the ear doctor in a second, because we do want to have, we like the class, we like the materiality around these parts, but we also need a little bit of revolutionary spirit. So ear doctor, my man, what's coming up with you, man? What you got next as we get ready for Dr. Ichile's thing?
So basically what we're going to do right here is we're going to have an artist spotlight. I got a spotlight on a pretty dope artist. They send in material and I was like, yo, I love it. So we're going to give y'all a little bit of taste of it. You know what I'm saying?
Let's get it. This is the remix.
Yeah. So, yo, big up to everybody out there. I hope y'all enjoying the Remix Morning Show. What I like to do right now is put a spotlight on the artist that's very dope. Sister goes by the name of Lola Lade, and she has a very dope song I just want to put y'all on to. So we're going to bring it and let y'all listen to it like this. Check this out. This one right here is called In the Kitchen, Lola Lade.
I've been in the kitchen, whipping up the grits and I've been really cooking true. Cutting off the shreddings, warming up my blessings, cooking up the perfect soup. Cause God been really speaking and I've been really seeking. I'm your manifesting proof. I be cooking awesome blessings for me. Cooking awesome blessings for me. Let me show you some self-love. Mix 2 cups of ambition. Mix 2 cups of resilience. Now have some patience. And sometimes life might get too hot. That's where you must lift your top. Release some steam and let it breathe. I've been in the kitchen, whipping up the grits and I've been really cooking true. Cutting off the shreddings, warming up my blessings, cooking up the perfect soup. Cause God been really speaking and I've been really seeking. I'm your manifesting. I be cooking awesome blessings for me. Cooking awesome blessings for me. Indigo, child. Come take a break and come sip some tea now. Your life is set destiny as you please. Soul food, come and eat. Indigo, child. Come take a break and come sip some tea now. Your life is set destiny as you please. Soul food, come and eat. I've been in the kitchen, whipping up the grits and I've been really cooking true. Cutting off the shreddings, warming up my blessings, cooking up the perfect soup. Cause God been really speaking and I've been really seeking. I'm your manifesting. I be cooking awesome blessings for me. Cooking awesome blessings for me.
All right. That's Lola Lade right there. Go check her out at Lola Lade. She got that heat for y'all. So check it out, yo. We got it right here on the Remix Morning Show.
Yes, indeed. That was hot.
Yeah.
That was hot. Good looking out here, Doctor. Appreciate that.
No doubt. The sister came and performed on one of the Renegade Culture podcasts, and I was like, yo, send me some more of that material. She did. I loved it. So check her out.
Right
Lola
on.
Lade.
Hey, well, as we appreciate you here, Doctor, we'll catch you in a few minutes. And as we keep it moving here at the Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media, as promised, Dr. Ichile, we're going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing with a little bit of revolutionary spirituality. So, Dr. Ichile, please.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Once again, I'm Iyali Ichile, and I'm going to call my segment Art Medicine. So on Wednesdays, about now, I want to come on and kind of offer something of a different vibe. I define art broadly. I define medicine broadly. My goal is to really explore the revolutionary and therapeutic aspects of spirituality, of culture, of art, of history. And, I think this is really important because, this group comes with all the fire, you know what I mean? We cooking in the kitchen, the chat's on fire. But today I really want to bring in some water. So I'm going to start with my news piece. I don't know if everyone has heard, the Washington Post put out an article yesterday about Harriet Tubman. She is my muse, my guiding ancestor, and she definitely brings up both the fire that I feel in this revolutionary space, but also the water that is necessary as well. So I'm going to start with her. So in the Washington Post, there was a report that Harriet Tubman, there's a new discovery related to her life, a new archaeological discovery. So her father's cabin, or evidence of her father's cabin, where she spent many years of her life, many critical formative years of her life, was discovered. Right. So in Maryland, on the Eastern Shore, an archaeologist, Julie Shablitsky, who works for the Maryland State Highway Administration, was brought in to dig for remains and evidence of Ben Ross's cabin. So that's Harriet's father. And they found some, right? Now, what's interesting about this story is a few things. This is one, it's a major discovery. I just want us to really know that to find the physical evidence of structures like cabins and homes of our ancestors is it's rare and it's important. But it's difficult. It's difficult from an archaeological perspective to dig in the marshy, boggy, swampy creeks and streams of Maryland. I'm not sure if people out there are really familiar with what this particular area looks like. It's not too far from where I live now. But this is Dorchester County. This is the Blackwater River. And so water has always been an important part of Harriet's landscape. And Julie Shablitsky and her team from the Maryland State Highway Administration, they found, with lots of funding, lots of money, they found the time and the resources to dig 1,000 test pits, like all throughout the marshy, boggy areas, and finally stumbled across some confirming evidence. They found nails, they found bricks, they found buttons, they found a pipe stem. They also found a knife sheath and a shotgun shell, which I think is really important for understanding Ben Ross and his way of life and some of the important skills that he taught Harriet. But the thing that proved that this was real and that this was where this man lived and raised Harriet and the rest of his family was a coin dated 1808. This is really important because it's almost like you find all these little ceramics and buttons and drawer pulls and pieces of evidence, but then you finally get something that tells you what year all this stuff comes from. It gives you the time period, right? It's like a label. It's amazing. It's so I can imagine, I'm having a nerd out moment as a historian. I can imagine looking around and seeing pottery that looks like it's from the 1830s and 40s, and some drawer pulls and a pipe stem that looks like it might be from around this time, and then getting a coin that says bing, it's from It's from when you thought it was from, right? So this is establishing a place and a time where Ben Ross, again, raised his family and taught Harriet those sets of skills that allowed her to be the amazing revolutionary spirit that she was. I think it's unfortunate sometimes that our own folks and our own scholars aren't as well funded to be able to make these discoveries. It takes time, it takes people, it takes resources, it takes money, but it's important nonetheless. I want to shout out the Society of Black Archaeologists. There aren't many of us out there doing this work. The Society of Black Archaeologists are all over the world, so I guess they can't be all places at all times to collect our ancestors' evidence, but we are grateful for the work that they do. So what I decided to do was try to read this article about Harriet Tubman and the discovery of where her childhood home, her paternal and maternal home, against some other phenomena happening in the global African organism, right? So today, if you are in the Yoruba Isheshe tradition or the Orisha tradition, today is the Oshe Day, or the praise day of Ifa, Oshun, Yemonja, Olokun, and Egbe, right? So this is speaking spiritually from one particular spiritual perspective, one particular spiritual worldview. But today is a day to honor the wisdom of the waters. Today is about the deities that guide the waters, that are the waters. Today is about the mothers. Today is Oshe Aje. Today is a day to honor the spirit of the empowered feminine, right? So all of that is mixing up with this Harriet piece today in my head. So I was just like, okay, it's water, it's Ifa, Oshe Ifa. So it's the wisdom of water. So what I decided to do, please just indulge me, guys, just indulge me, is to create a guided meditation on water. This is just like Harriet kept me up last night thinking about what I was going to do with this story. And I want us to try to tap into the wisdom of water. Now, I know we're not all spiritually inclined folks. So this is a meditation if you're not spiritually inclined. And if you are, it's a meditation plus some other stuff, right? You can do this now, or you can do this some other point today, maybe, but just get you a glass of water. Just get you some water, okay? If you have one now or can get one quickly, you can join me in my little exercise, okay? And I do this. I always go back to music. Thank you, Ear Doctor. I'm gonna put in some special requests for stuff I want to hear, by the way. But I'm thinking of Fela today. I'm thinking of the Yoruba tradition today, right? So I'm thinking water no get enemy, right? We have to respect water, right? There's so much going on in the world, struggle around the issue of water. So I'm thinking about how water can drown and water can cleanse, right? Water is all of those things. So our meditation today is going to be like a libation. We're going to pour libation to the spirit of Harriet Tubman, the revolutionary spirit of Harriet Tubman. We're going to pour libation to honor the revolutionary spirit in our ancestry. All of us are descended from somebody revolutionary, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Some of us are descended from the Maroons. Some of us are descended from the insurrectionists, the strategists, the arsonists, the poisoners. Some of us are descended from the drink spitters, on large scales and small. We come from revolutionary blood, and we want to draw that forth. We want to call that, right? Libation is so important. And this is the libation is like the little piece I'm pulling out of the black medicine bag for today. Like libation, that's a tool, guys. It's not just cutesy ceremony symbolically representing, the ancestors having a little drink. It's a tool, okay? It's a tool. It's to invoke our imagination. It is because we can't do it if we can't visualize it. Like we really have to start doing the visualizing of these things, right? So visualizing, imagining that we're calling forth the revolutionary blood in our bodies, that we're calling forth the revolutionary spirit in our lineages, that we are calling forth the revolutionary spirit in ourselves. So you might want to take a little water, sprinkle it on your head. You know, some people put it on the back of their necks, take a little sip, right? But think about what you're doing, right? The Japanese and Germans just figured out that if you pray over water, it actually can alter the crystalline structure of the stuff. Well, that's Johnny come lately to an understanding we've had for eons, right? So visualize as you hold the water, as you touch your skin with the water, as you drink the water, that you are doing what Harriet did. She took spiritual baths. She cleansed off, she washed the fear away. She washed the toxicity away. She drank the water, she waded in the water and allowed all of her doubts and anything that stood in the way of her higher purpose, like she just let that just flow right out of her, right off of her, right? Like that's what we want to do with water. Imagine the water that you drink cleaning out your interior, not just your guts, but like your boundaries and borders and fears. And we are going to lubricate our life. Okay, lubricate your life. Okay, that's my my Niger people. This is the same water, family, that rained on the faces of people in the struggle. The same water on the earth that fell from people's eyes as they cried in this struggle. This is the water that is perspiring from the bodies of the people marching in the streets in Haiti and in Senegal in their fight for sovereignty. This is the same water that they are praying for in the parts of the world that are dried out due to the global climate crisis. This is the same water that is sacred to the native people of this land that they're fighting and struggling over in the Dakota Access Pipeline crisis. This is the same water that they're praying for, the clean water that they're praying for in Flint, Michigan, still that they're struggling for. This is the water that will help to heal the people in St. Vincent who are affected by the volcano. This is the same water, right? The hydroelectric power of the Congo. This is the water. It is all connected, right? So really think about, as you drink water today, not that it's some, stay hydrated, friends. It's not that. It's more than that. You drink today in solidarity with the people who have polluted water and want fresh water, the people who want access. You pray and you drink. You meditate and you drink. You imagine people having access to the clean water. You imagine people having access to their ancestral lands. You imagine people winning the fight. People having control over their resources and sovereignty. That's what you do with the water today. As you do that, and in the revolutionary spirit of what we learned in Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, you don't just pray for what you want. You also pray that as your African life and your African world and your African struggle stays moisturized and lubricated, that the plans of your oppressors stay dry and brittle, that the plans of your oppressors are crumbly and weak, right? Like, you draw all the water to yourself. You draw the water to your people. You draw the water, like the ocean waves of people that's out there protesting and burning things down. You do that, right? That's what we want to do. So that's my meditation. So again, I'm trying to hold space for the creativity, for you to imagine all of these things as they come to you, to again pour libation, to drink some water at the minimum, to wash yourself with the water, but again, while thinking and concentrating on what it means and what it has meant and what it will mean. I thank you so much for indulging me in my little visualization. In the future, I want to have interviews with people who are practitioners, but really from a perspective of revolutionary spirituality and culture. I want to interview and talk with people who are really dealing with sustainable African spiritual practice and who aren't practicing spiritual escapism, but who are really trying to hold on to the revolutionary aspects of our traditions, the revolutionary potential that is in our traditions. We need to chant down Babylon and use all our tools. So I'm here to offer tools from our spiritual toolkit, from our medicine bag. I'll stop here. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you. But you did.
We can hear you.
Right on. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Dr. Ichile. As folks mentioned in the chat, even those of us who didn't know we needed that. Mm-hmm. And I need to get my libation skills up because I made a little bit of a mess over here. So
it's okay. Maybe one of these days I actually demonstrate one. I know that's abstract.
It was just the skill level with the application. It just made a little more of a mess. I just wasn't as specific. So it's all good. It's all
could
good.
Be like the lack of hair, let it pour down faster.
Right down. Like there's nothing that slows it down.
Yeah. You need a little sprinkle. Yeah,
Shameful. Listen, so I know we really appreciate that, Dr. Ichile. Thank you very much. Right on point. And want to remind everybody, as it's scrolling across the bottom, hit that join button, the like button, the share, subscribe, all of that. There is no morning show like the Remix Morning Show, obviously, if it's just so apparent.
I say that's right.
No doubt. So, Ear Doctor, I know you got one more segment for us this morning. Get us a little bit of an update on some other avenues important to life. Look who's back!
Yeah. They try to stop it. The revolution not compromised. Dr. Chile, dope. We here. They try to stop the bum rush. Hey, listen, man. We got to be creative out here. Popo trying to stop it, chasing people and all that. But we ain't gonna let it stop this program. I was in the chat room hanging out with the other good folks on the other side of things, but I like it over here a little bit more better.
Right on.
So anyway, I'm back again. Yeah, Kamal, you ain't get rid of me that easy.
Well, yo, I'm just gonna get into a couple sports and get the scores real quick, and then we can jump right back into the remix. But Shayla, I got something for you. All right, so let's get into it like that, y'all. Yeah. So welcome back. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and we are here for your quick sports update. I only talk about what I like, just like Jared Ball mixes what he like. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of NBA scores real quick. We had the Hawks play the Magic. Hawks beat the Magic. Unbelievably, the Hawks are winning 112 to 96. Next, you got the Knicks. They beat the Hornets 109 to 97. I can't believe that New York teams are actually doing good. You got the Nets. They just played the Pelicans. They beat them 134 to 129, but they supposed to beat everybody. They got like every all-star on the planet on their team right now besides LeBron. And then you have the Clippers win against the Trailblazers. Clippers beat them 113 to 112. Great game. And then you got the Timberwolves that beat the Kings 134 to 120. This kid, Anthony Edwards from GA, this dude is bananas. He's dunking on everybody and don't care about you. But that was just the update on the NBA scores. And we're going to get right back into the remix just like this, y'all.
Yeah. That was hot. But you missing something, man. You keep leaving out all like you leaving out the world of sport. I didn't hear nothing about the greatest and most played sport on the planet, which is real football.
I talk about what I like.
I mean, I'm just saying. I do want to can I give a quick update though, because a lot has happened on that front real quick in the sporting world, in the biggest, most played sport. Just from yesterday, there has been a massive shift. It's almost like the sporting equivalent of police terrorism in this country, and the massive shifts that do and don't take place. And what I mean by that is, as I quickly mentioned the other day, there was these 12 to 15 elite teams in Europe that wanted to break off and start their super league. There's so much colonialism and global capital involved in this in the story. But what happened was in just the last 24 hours, all of the local fans, the club fans, all of from these clubs rose up in protest and shut it down. So as of just when we went to air this morning, all of the English teams and now all of the Spanish league teams have said that they're not going to participate. So the idea has been crushed. So on the one hand, you have people in jubilation saying, yes, the people won. We overcame the imperial dominance. But in reality, not much has changed because the same people still have power. And the only real reason that the fans of these clubs had their voices heard as the customers was because they were backed by the most elite and moneyed institutions of FIFA and the European not union, but European soccer league, UEFA, soccer association, football association, UEFA, who also wanted to block this. So it's one of those sort of Pyrrhic victories, one of those didn't really happen victories that a lot of local fans are, I think, mistakenly thinking that they're taking credit for. You know, it was like the same thing with GameStop. People claiming, we took down a big Wall Street masters. No, what really happened was a bigger Wall Street master put someone in place to run that hustle and made a lot of little people think that they were doing something. Anyway, so I just wanted to quickly throw that in there. Everything's going back to normal, as is the case here with police terrorism. It's just that normal isn't something that's so awesome for the people. That's all. So,
well, thank you, Jared.
Yeah.
Woo! I'm out for your sports for the day.
Look. Are you trying to say?
No, go ahead, Kalanji.
They still messing with this.
Kalanji throws out.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Mel Reeves has showed up. We did get in touch with Mel Reeves, the longtime veteran journalist and activist from Minneapolis, the spokesman, recorder, journalist who's been covering the Chauvin trial very closely. And please check out our previous discussions on Black Power Media with Mel. Mel, good morning. Welcome to the show. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the verdict and where you think we are with all of this.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm on.
Yeah, you're on. Good morning. Live and direct.
All right. Sounds good. So now you busted me out because I am the quintessential night owl.
Right. We did drag you out. That's right. That's right.
And so my voice sounds a little funny because I've worn it out over the last few days. And like I say, I'm not really much of a morning person. I don't really get out and about before 8 too much. So anyway, I hope everybody's fine. I see you got a good panel of guests here. So at some point, I'd like to know who I'm on with, but that's okay. Figure that out later. But how's everybody?
We're good. We're good. So we this is the RemiX morning show. We've been rocking since 8 a.m. Eastern. And we're catching you at the tail end to accommodate your night owlness.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you want me? Where do you want me to start?
Just what's your thoughts? Like we've been talking about it this morning and talking about what we think the verdict means and does not mean, and you were closer to it in proximity and in probably detail than many of us. So just thought we'd get your thoughts as well.
I mean, well, the verdict means what it says. We us black folks lack confidence in the whole system, and even in the jurors on some level. And six of one, half dozen the other. Maybe we should have had a little more confidence in our working class brothers and sisters. Most of them are working class, a little middle class. So maybe we should have a little more confidence in them. It's understandable we wouldn't have any confidence in the system of jurisprudence or any of that system. So that makes sense. So the jurors showed us a little bit like, no, man, we wasn't buying it either. But the verdict means that there was enough pressure brought to bear that folks felt pressure, even prior to jurors. The jurors pushed past some of the programming they had. Most people, they were still mainly white folks on that jury, and some African immigrants and some other folks that probably leaned toward giving the police the benefit of the doubt. But I think they were able to see past that and then convict a man. So over the long haul, in the big picture, it means that we can win when we fight. As I always say when I speak, that we fight, we can win. But now we have to move past it. We still have work to do. I'm so glad I heard other people say this yesterday too. Today we wake up, we still have work to do. We still have cases that have not been solved. We've been on this campaign, I think I talked about it last time, to reopen the cases, right? I've been working with families for a little bit now to reopen the cases. We have a whole family group here of families who've lost loved ones to police violence who've been fighting for quite a while, right? To get their cases open, because some of them have been open at all and others just reopened. So that's where we're headed. We're going to have be part of a big protest on George Floyd's anniversary on May 25th. And also, we're planning on going to D.C. I mentioned this, on August 28th. We want to make a big splash in D.C. We want to go to D.C. and demand that, so that we're not confused anymore. When police kill us, we demand that they be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and we demand that the killer cops be jailed, and demand that they reopen all of the cases, police file all of them. Just go back and open the books and solve all of them, and by prosecuting all the cops. And at the end of the day, our perspective is that, we're not in that whole defund the police thing. Our perspective is that we should end the policing. Our demand is that end the system of policing as we know it. So that's where we put my energy. We're going to be fighting here, centering our fight, and the folks who are the most affected, the people who have moral authority, which are primarily the families who lost. I've heard people push back and say, well, the families can't leave. Well, we don't have that example here. The families are right here with everybody else right up front. In fact, I jokingly tell people that if these folks can continue to fight for justice and they're actually feeling real life pain, they've actually lost somebody, we surely can keep, we can keep on the battlefield, so to speak. We can keep fighting ourselves with them and for them, and keep putting pressure on, because let's face it, it doesn't seem like much to folks on some level, but the prosecution does matter, because it says that some of the other cats on the street, some of these other cops on the street, that if I do something wrong, there's a chance I might be prosecuted. And that matters, and sometimes pushes them back. So it does matter over the long haul. So anyway.
Word hadn't spread throughout Ohio yet, apparently, on that note, the fear of the verdict, clearly. Mel, one of the questions that came up earlier, and anyone please, we were talking about asking, is part of what we're seeing in terms of in some sectors, a hesitant response to the verdict? Is it having to do with there not being a sentence handed down yet? Do you think that there will be another level of response at the point of the sentencing?
No, we got Dante right here, brother. We got our hands full. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. We're not getting caught up in that minutia. The system will see him as a first-time offender, right? And nothing we can do about that. So they may push back. But we're gonna, we've got our hands full. We've got Dante Wright was murdered here, so we got to be pushing to try to get. There's going to be protests continually to try to push that second-degree manslaughter to second-degree murder. So I don't think we've got any protests planned around the sentencing, because some of the sentencing in Minnesota is already laid out. You know what I'm saying? Some of it's already laid out. They can push for more, but it's now in the judge's hands. So I don't anticipate a lot of protests around that. You know, they're going to do what they're going to do. So again, you know, we're going to put our focus on, you know, continuing this fight, because the other part of the fight, of course, is that, you know, we've got to change the system of policing. You know, they're not holding anybody accountable. I mean, we got prosecution after the fact. We want to get to the point where ain't nobody being killed or beat up on, right? And if you hit somebody, if they hit somebody with that stick, they got to go home, at least for a bit. If you hit somebody with a stick twice, they should go home for permanent. So we got to push to get rid of this whole system of policing. And of course, if we do that, we may be able to get rid of the system that finds itself needing the system of policing. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to ask yourself the question, what kind of system needs the police to operate the way they do? And as I always say, it's a low down, raggedy, filthy system.
I'll only add that
needs police to brutalize us. You know what I'm saying? It's a oppressive, exploitative system, hateful behind system, you know, that needs the police to be beating on us and treating us like we're anything other than children of God or human beings. So our work is cut out for us, brother. So
I'll only add real quick that you know, we still have to look at this. I saw there were some comments in the chat about how open-ended this case was. This case wasn't open-ended just because there was a videotape. We've had videotapes before, right? We've had clear showings of the police conducting their brutality in open. Obviously, we can go all the way back to the Rodney King scenario. So we know that the prosecution and or the verdict was not assured. But again, what we have to think about is the masses of amount of protest, the actual, not only just the threats, but the actual destruction of property, people creating alternative autonomous zones at times, all of that erupted over this particular case. And if that's what it takes to get a conviction, we have to understand how far the system will go to protect itself. And so I think in this particular case, we have again, a prosecution that happened that included the police breaking down the blue wall of silence, as they say, coming out and saying openly that this was not policy, so forth and so on, something that never happened in these particular cases. And so, like he said, the struggle is still on. But as we work on these individual cases, the other thing that we have to put at the forefront is the system, again, of policing that folks have been talking about, the alternatives to what that policing is. If there's any policing in our community, how that has to be controlled by the very community, as opposed to this top-down military structure that now polices our community and takes over and puts our community in pain and in jail and in prison.
Can I speak to that real quick? So two things. The blue wall of silence was not broke down in this case. That's not true. Mainstream press is saying it, but it's not. You got to pay attention to what's going on. The administration and management threw one of their people under the bus. That's what happened. The blue wall of silence is broken down when the cats on the street just say, hey, nah, man, you know, you hit Brother Kamal, I'm telling on you. And I'm gonna go to court. And that's not what happened. The street cop did not testify against Derek Chauvin. You got to be very clear. They're tricks, man. That wasn't the blue wall of silence. The administration and the cops on the street are not the same people. In fact, to your point, somebody's point, the reason that they did what they did in Ohio is the folks on the street are throwing their finger up at us, right? They said we're gonna do what we want to do. Right. And so until we get to the point where the system realizes that the folks on the street is not worth trying to support them, they're still being supportive. And the other point about the control of the police is, as I point out to people, you know, I don't have any problem with people trying to do civilian review towards civilian account, because then people learn. So we can't control the police because they're not our police. They're a function of this system, of the social, economic, political system called capitalism. We don't own them. You know, it's a misnomer. We pay taxes, no doubt, and that taxes don't give us control of nothing. Remember, we pay taxes, and they put a large amount of our taxes into the military budget. And I bet most of the people on this program don't agree with what they do with that money. They don't agree with foreign intervention, that kind of stuff, right? But they still take our money and do what they want with it. So just because we pay taxes to it, we do not control it. If we did control it, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I understand the thoughts around it. But we're not going. The only way we control the police is when we control this system. And you see where I'm going with this. You know, when we talk about a restructuring, that's the only thing that's going to stop this thing. That's why
there's no disagreement with you, brother, on that.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, because what's going to happen is, you know, where I'm going is that this fight against police violence, it's their Achilles heel, will lead to a fight for a system in which we'll get, you know, what we need ultimately. We'll get free, right? We'll get health care, quality public education. We're able to go to work and make a wage so we can, that's going to be a part of that broader fight, because this is happens to be Achilles heel, but of course it's a bigger fight against this, that to bring down this social, political, economic system that has a need to do what it does, because their cops, let's face it, their job is to remind us of our place and to keep us in our place. That's why they over-police our community, and they do it to reinforce stereotypes or those people are more criminal. Now, those walls are being broken down without question, but that's their real role. That's why they keep doing it. That's why they're still stopping people for air fresheners in the winter. They're still doing it because they still feel like, they have hegemony. Well, it's on us to continue to fight, to force, to begin to take away space. And of course, when we take this down, ultimately, we'll be able to take the whole thing down.
Well, Mel Reeves, thank you very much for joining us this morning and getting up early. We really appreciate that. We'll definitely be back in touch because clearly there's going to be much more need for your work and our attention to it. So thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you.
Brother, who am I on with? I see all these good looking
so stick around for the closing and you can hear, and then when you get a chance, go check the replay and get caught up on the Boom Bap morning show. That is the RemiX morning show right here on Black Power Media. I'm Jared Ball, Kalanji Changa, Kamal Franklin, Dr. Iyile Ichile, Marcy Lee, Luke My Nation, all those in the chat and the comments, Sister May in the background. We really appreciate you. Hit the like, share, subscribe, join button, and be back here 8 a.m. Eastern, same time, same channel right here for the RemiX show, Black Power Media. Ear Doctor, thank you very much, and take us on out, my man.
Ready for revolution.
Ready for revolution.